you guys ready?
I think so.
Okay.
Testing.
Second.
Hello. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, welcome everybody to the Thursday, February 20th, 2025 Webster Town Board Workshop. Tonight we only have one agenda item, but it's a good one. We have Pat Stevens, the town's highway superintendent, who's going to give a presentation and tender give any answers to any questions the board has about the highway department specifically, I guess, the new highway facility. So Pat, I'll hand it to you.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you to the board for having me in tonight to talk about this. Yeah, I'll do my best to answer any questions as we go along. So we were in a little while ago, did an update, well, it was actually quite a while ago now, on how the facility project was coming. Right now, we're in the thick of the winter season as well. So I wanted to touch on some of the services that the department handles during the winter months. Call volume is pretty high right now with a lot of different things that are going on in the community. So I wanted to touch on that first, and then we'll go into the highway project, and then some of the stuff we discussed last time I was in here doing a presentation that might be upcoming that I think we'd like to pursue at this time. So I'll start with the cover photo here. That was actually from this week. One of our frontline plow trucks just coming back from one of the many runs they've been on in the last month. So for winter services, the main one, obviously, to see us out there providing is snow and ice removal. So we remove snow and ice from pretty much all roads within the town of Webster. So town, county, and state roads within the town limits. We do that for the state and county via intermunicipal agreements where they essentially pay us or reimburse us for the efforts that we spend within our towns. It's nice because it can keep a relatively consistent level of treatment across all of those roads within our limits. The only road that's really an exception to that actually is physically within Webster is 104. Route 104 is a state highway that is maintained by state forces, so we do not deal with the snow and ice on those roads. Major topic right now, unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff around town is pothole repair. So even though we plow and we remove snow and ice from the state and county roadways, we are not able to go out and do roadways repairs, pavement repairs like potholes. So any issues with potholes, road surface issues that aren't related to snow and ice fall under the responsibility of the agency that has jurisdiction over the road, which, like I said, in Webster, they're both state and county roads. There's lists of what specific roads those are on our website, on the highway page. If you go to the roads section, there's a complete list of state and county roads that are within the town of Webster. There's a lot more county than state, but they are listed there. So if you're having an issue with a roadway, you're going to have a more efficient process to look them up, see what actual agency they're under, and contact them directly. However, if you do call us, we will help and give you the information to contact them. We also contact them on your behalf, but don't usually have much different result in the issues we have. This season in particular, our sensible salting policy has been extremely important. There is a salt shortage across the Northeast, driven by a few factors. Some we're not fully aware of right now, but the main one is the amount of snow and ice that we've had this season. It's been significantly more than the past few years, creating a situation where our program, which is extremely efficient with how we salt and where we salt, is very, very important. We've been tracking it very closely lately. The supply has been very low. The picture on the left there is our basically current salt barn. Maybe there might be a little bit less because they're out there plowing right now. But we're getting shipments regularly every few days, but the supply there should be at least double what that is for us to really be comfortable. So we haven't got to a point where we have to really change what we're doing because we're so efficient at the beginning. So the other key part of the sensible salting that we really want to stress to residents is that you do have to drive the roadway conditions. We do not have a bare roads policy or anything of that nature. There will be times when there's snow on the roadways within the town, and you do have to adjust your driving to those conditions. They're given, especially some of the intensity of the storms that we've had, 2 inches, 3 inches an hour at times. And it takes us a few hours to get through an entire run. You're going to come across snow on the roadways. It's very, very important that you tailor how you're driving to those conditions. We will keep them clear and as safe as possible, but really is a key factor to this is to make sure that you're driving, appropriately based on the condition of the road. During these really heavy storms, even if we were, putting double the product, we would still have those conditions, but we don't want to do this. So those are the key factors around snow and ice that we want to stress to everybody because there is a lot of issues with these few topics at the moment. A couple other things that happen, we do a Christmas tree drop off. So I took a picture of the sign, kind of where it is, and there's kind of a little tiny tree there, but we've had hundreds of trees come directly to the highway facility, right at 1005 Picture Parkway. We chip those trees, grind them, and dispose of them. So it's a nice little thing. It's one of the only drop-offs that we do that isn't kind of a scheduled one throughout the rest of the year. So that is an option. A lot of people use it. It's great to see people coming down there. Took a picture of the sign because people have trouble finding it sometimes, even though the sign is located directly when you come into the facility. But if you're looking for that, if you happen to still have a Christmas tree, feel free to bring it down. We do continuously throughout the year look at drainage. It's one of the services we offer across the board for the town. And in winter months, there can be different things like ice damming and things of that nature that we'll go out and address. Some things we'll put on a schedule to be completed during the summer months. Other things we will deal with at that time. Another time, if you see water near your house or in the street, it seems like a large volume. It can also be water main breaks, things of that nature. So we like you to call in and let us know anything you see like that. And then we do offer courtesy mailbox repair and replacement if needed. We had some very heavy icing and wet snow the other day, but unfortunately when that stuff comes off the plow, it can cause some damage. So we have intermittent issues with that, but we are able to offer that courtesy repair and replacement, the other guidelines for that on our website. So that's the majority of the stuff that we offer during the winter that I wanted to touch on, because we are right in the thick of it, mostly the snow and ice removal, but a little bit of it. So now on to a little bit more of the exciting part, the existing highway building that we've been under construction for a little less than 18 months on. We are substantially complete on that building. So we had our C of O, our certificate of occupancy that allows us to occupy the building, was on 2/14 last Friday. Our plan is to move our 24 main trucks that will go in the facility that you see in the pictures, the parking bay of the new facility. We're looking to do that by tomorrow, but with all this snow, we were a little behind on exactly getting things tuned up. So it'll be within a few days. We didn't have as much time this week to kind of do the final prep that we need to do now that the space can be occupied. And then we would have our 40 operational staff hopefully move next week, 225 around that period. We have a plan of attack with our IT department to switch over all of the computers so that our data call system will function out of the new building on 2/28. And that would allow the rest of our office and admin staff, including myself, to be functioning out of this facility by 3. So we're very, very excited to finally be able to put some dates to this. There's always last minute things that might shuffle these by a day or two, but really pushing to be in there. Some of the things we've discussed about the existing building have continued to become more intense over the 18 months we've been under construction. So some of the conditions in the building are really getting to a point where we need to make a move, especially the buildings in kind of the state you see it there, which is pretty great at this point. So as we get to substantial completion of the project, we wanted to review the budget again. Last time we were here, it was in good shape. We've been able to maintain that situation. I used basically the same slide, but as we're this far along, we don't really need to carry any contingencies because we believe we have any change orders that have come along tracked already into the cost. So you'll see the cost of the new building and the Cliff Jones upgrades is slightly higher than it was. That's because we've incorporated any change orders that happened. Then we were able to back out the contingency we had of it. So it brings us to a total around $21,364,348. Our original approved bond amount, $28,250,000. So we are currently tracking, as we're coming in the final stages of the project, about $6,885,652 under the bonded amount, which use the proposed budget. So we are actually slightly, a little bit better shape than we were the last time we were here for the update, because we've got to the end and we believe we have all of the costs tracked, so we can kind of solidify that down. So we've been able to maintain a pretty efficient budget throughout, which we're excited about also. That was our goal, and we're kind of getting to the point where we've achieved it. So excited about that as well. So the other part that we discussed for the next steps was what was going to happen at the existing building site. That building, for our purposes, is undersized, and portions of it are in fairly significant disrepair, mostly the parking bays of the existing main highway building that we have now. So some of these remain the same, and there's some additional information that's come up since the last time we were here. So we do have a salt barn portion that was in the original scope for the project that we would like to reconsider now, especially given the budgetary efficiencies we've been able to maintain. Replacing the salt barn at this time would allow for higher storage capacity, which is huge this time of year. In the off season, with no demand, we could stock up on the salt and not have as much of a worry as we do right now. The new higher capacity of the storage barn would get us much closer to having almost enough for an entire season, stockpiled ahead of time, which would be a big factor right now when we have gotten dangerously low a couple of times. Luckily, we've got some good contacts around town, and we're able to work well with the state and our local supplier to make sure that we didn't have a problem, but we get much closer to that per feet. So having that updated capacity really is an important one right now as we've gone through this one. Obviously, the building will be more energy efficient and a lot lower maintenance costs long term. Our current building does end up with a fair bit of annual maintenance since it was built in the 80s. It's between 40 and 50 years old. The other portion of it that kind of came up over the past summer, more so than everything, looking at water quality, is a truck washout building. Currently, we do some of the bulk washout of our operational trucks in the summer outside, which doesn't really allow for that runoff from the trucks to get captured. So this isn't soapy water, it's just debris, sediment, things of that nature that come off the truck when they get back into the initial cleaning. We'd like to do a semi-enclosed building for that. This was one of the recommendations of our federal EPA audit that we had this summer when they came to our facility. Saw trucks being washed out. The way we have them now was to have a facility like this, so we'd like to incorporate that into the salt barn project as well. Other portions, the plan was to demo the majority of our existing building, if not all of it. We had to leave a small portion for the fuel pump system. Within that demo would allow us to gain yard space back that we lost in the new building. It is a good-sized piece of property, but we do need yard space for operational things during the summer, and then if there is an event like an ice storm or different things like that, we need a storage area to be able to accommodate those type of efforts as well. The new portion of this conversation is that the biggest area of issue with the existing building is actually the truck base, which is a steel frame structure with a flat roof that has a lot of structural issues. The actual office portion doesn't have structural issues, it's just undersized for our use. When it was built back in the late 60s, 1969, the staff was 18 people. Now we're 40. We're trying to be more than 40 in order to maintain the service level that we had. So it's not sized properly to us, but it doesn't necessarily have all of the structural issues. So it's actually pretty sound structurally, the office portion. So we have had discussions over the past few months about possible renovation to that existing office space to be incorporated as an animal control structure that would house our animal control staff and allow for storage of animals that we're required to have here in town. So we're in the early stages of reviewing that and working with Keith Mortimer and our other town staff to see if that's a feasibility. We're still in the feasibility stage of it, but it does seem like it might be possible. So that's just kind of some of the proposals for the existing building area. So this is some of the budgetary portion of that. Some of these have been adjusted since the last time I was here. mostly through just annual increases, material increases, wage increases. The wage situation is pretty significant when it comes to public work right now, so those increases year over year have been quite high, so I did make a couple of adjustments to these to make sure they were on the conservative side. But we have the salt barn, the truck washout portion, and then an incidental budget for things that might pop up that were unforeseen. The current total that we're projecting for that, estimating for that, is around $3,025,000. If you take the total of the current highway budget that we discussed on an earlier slide of $21,300,000 and change, if we were to do the $3 million to get the salt barn washout and the washout building, we would still total for the project, which was the highway facility project, we would come in under the bond approval by about $3.8 million. So that's a big part of the reason that we want to look into these now. The earlier presentation I did went into some of the more specifics about the efficiencies, that materials only go up, labor only goes up. We have good staff on hand right now to help with the construction management. It's a big key, it was a big key to us maintaining the budget that we did, working with campus and MRB. Really allowed us to do that, so we would be able to kind of continue that partnership right into this effort here. We were work on this now. So as far as next steps, if we did want to move toward that, the salt barn and truck wash building, the biggest next step would be to award the site and building design contract. We already received a proposal from MRB Group, who's the designer of the highway facility. To do this, I reviewed it with Keith Mortimer, the town engineer, and campus construction. It does seem to be sound and probably the most efficient way to move forward. So we already have that scope in hand. We could potentially put a resolution on for the next board meeting on March 6th to have the supervisor sign that contract, and then we can start the design on the salt barn truck wash portion. If we were to do that, then we would want to revise the schedule. At this point, my goal would be to complete the design, which I already had a large portion of it completed during the design of the highway building, because it wasn't in the original scope, so it's really just completing that design, starting from scratch. The truck wash building will kind of have to be started from scratch, but it's a much smaller building, so it shouldn't add too much more time. If we could get that completed as early as possible in spring, we would still be able to have a 2025 start to the construction of this, which we think will help with a lot of efficiencies. During that process, if we move forward, we want to continue to coordinate our demolition scope for the salt barn project, which goes partially where the existing building is, with any continuation of pursuing our office spaces for animal control. So we can coordinate that throughout the process. The picture we have on this one is the new break room, which is really coming out nice. We're going to be able to do training in there. It's a much more conducive space to speaking to the group, coordinating with the group. What you see there is part of an island that goes with the kitchen that will allow everybody to warm up their food and without being on top of each other, waiting in line and that type of stuff. So it's coming out nice, finally get to a finished state. And that is the majority of what I had for the update on the highway building. And this one here is a current picture of the exterior of the front of the building that people will drive up to when we get in there, hopefully in a couple of weeks. It's also where we start questions and comments.
I noticed that you are, you have everything here, and also to congratulations that you have a wonderful project and you get it under, you know, the amount that we anticipated.
Thank you.
Which is good, but we don't want to go all the way up to the, you know, full amount of the bond.
Right.
Right? And there are a couple things in here that you have. I noticed you did not put in the animal control project into the salt barn washout and, you know, at the end of the estimate budget.
That would be included in this budget, this project budget.
Well, I noticed that, so if we, you know, because, you know, initially you mentioned it up here for the site upgrade, right? For the salt barn, the truck washout, the yard, and the animal control. But when on the estimate budget that you plan to do for that, you did not add
So
it. I'm just curious, so is that gonna be more if we, okay, you know, if we approve this?
Right, so I included it in the site upgrades because it's being considered on the site, but it won't be a part of this budget. So if that effort goes to renovate that building, it would be a part of the animal control budget that would have to be addressed through the funding for the animal control portion. It wouldn't come out of this budget, so that's why I didn't include it in the section, is it's, the financial portion of it would be tied to the project. It's only tied to the project because it's in the same facility that we're already had the project started. So, yeah, the animal control budget would be separate from this, which means any expense for it would not be included in this.
So that could be like more addition in the future for it, right? Is that what-
Yeah, I'm not heavily involved in the animal control
Okay.
process,
Just
but
curious.
yeah, it would be
No, it's a great
additional.
question.
It would all be additional to this.
I know
yeah.
that, you know, we got awarded back April of last year, a $400,000 Ags and Market
Yeah.
grant. And I'm glad that you didn't put it in here as a net or whatever, because you haven't been that involved in it. And I know that Keith and the crew are still trying to work through, like, well, if you design the cages and all that in that building, how much of that 400,000 is used for that? So it is a separate thing, but on the same token, it's almost a hybrid project, because that admin building, you'd have to keep it up anyway, if I remember, Pat, because you need the mechanicals for the gas bays to be enclosed inside. Is that correct?
Yeah, there'd be a small portion of it, right? So
Right.
what we're considering is leaving a larger portion of it standing to possibly be renovated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, so I don't know if that,
Okay.
it's more of a visual thing, because I mean, how big is the admin part of the old?
I believe it's between 2,000 and 3,000 square feet. I haven't measured out that way, it's pretty big.
Yeah.
It incorporates the sign shop, and most of the offices out front would be the structural divide that we think. We're still having
Right.
to look into that, so it's a little bit hard to say. So there's gonna be overlap in the scope slightly,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't look like incorporating the dollars into this. It'd be my scope to do whatever demolition portion, and I would stop that demolition.
Right.
And wherever I stop for this project is where the animal control renovation would take over, and that would be a separate budget on that.
Yeah, I see the animal control as a separate capital project. Has its own grant. It's just great if we can use the building, that will save a lot of money.
It'd be interesting to see. Good question.
Quick question about events.
That's,
I haven't been to one of them, but the town of Arundecoy has public markets that are
Really?
inside their highway garage,
mm-hmm,
and there's all that space.
one
Is
space.
that a possibility to have some kind of event market for?
For me, as long as it's not during operational hours, yeah, it's a town-owned space. The rest of the coordination of it, I'm not sure what that would entail. But operationally, yeah, especially in the summer months, it's possible for us to put the trucks outside for a day or two, or a Saturday or something. Or in the winter. In the winter, it'd be tougher, because you don't,
Of course,
the whole
yeah.
purpose of it is to not have the stuff outside, and there's 24 trucks that are going there. So there'd be some logistical stuff, but it's.
I don't know how they do it in Arundecoy. I haven't been
That's
to it,
news to
but
me, that's
it's,
pretty interesting.
Yeah, it'd be something interesting to look into. Absolutely. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that either.
Maybe I'm making things up. I'm going by what my sister.
No,
told
because
me,
I
so-
walk by when I walk with my mother, she lives in Arundel, we walk by the town hall all the time, and they do a lot of things at that town hall campus, a lot of public markets and all that. I did not know that they did stuff in the DPW garage in Arundel, like there was
I
a farmer's market or
I
whatever.
could be totally wrong, but I actually reached out to Lori about it, about getting a spot at one time.
Yeah.
So I,
Well, the two things I would say is that this is very interesting, and, you know, on one hand, look into it, Jennifer, see what they do. And then the second thing is, I think we, may want to be cautious about copying anything that Ron Quaid's doing at this point. Anyway,
One of the other things
well,
that
good, not
you know what, that was,
everything.
one of the other things that I've heard done in some of the highway facilities is, for example, the drug take-back days,
yes,
where
They're inside, and then the cars can just drive through, drop off the drugs, left and right there, and then drive right out, the same way the trucks would be entering and exiting the building. So that's another thing that we could possibly look into in the future.
Yeah, so it's pretty great. It'll be neat. So this year we are hosting, we alternate with Infield on hosting the hazardous waste drop-off in coordination with the county. So that'll be in this facility this year. And then every year annually, we do the free rabies clinic in coordination with our animal control staff in the building. So those will both probably function like that this year. It'll be different. In the past, we open up the bays, everybody kind of walks through, but especially on the rabies clinic, if they could stay in their cars with some of their animals that might not be used to being around other animals,
Sure.
it might be really beneficial. So yeah, so
But it's funny, Jen and Patty bring up an interesting point that we have these new facilities at Highway and now soon to be at Sewer. What opportunities does that open up for things that we would have never thought to do at the old highway garage or at the old sewer? And so it'll be interesting to see. I wanted to just rattle off very quick. I got some comments and one question, I think. And I'm going in page order. So my first comment is on that pothole repair, especially on county and state roads. As you might imagine, we get pinged about that a lot from the citizens, and one of the worst things I hate doing is passing the buck. It's fingernails on a chalkboard for me to say, we aren't allowed to go and fix those potholes on state and county roads. I gotta tell you, Pat, in the last couple of years, has come up with some very creative ways to approach the Monroe County and the New York State Department of Transportation. And I'm gonna use the slang term of, he's approached them with, we could do proactive money out of the state and the county, tying into our IMAs for plowing, where the town DPW or highway department goes and fills those potholes and then bills them back. You can either pay us, county and state, that way, or you'll pay us 10 times as much when one of his plow blades chips on one of those. And I thought that was a good way to approach them. And they were open to that, I thought, Pat, but we ran into the bureaucratic, it had to go up 9 levels, and I don't know if we ever got any answer on that.
no, there's a process. Closest we got, the county, we do some summer restoration work with, so they're a little more open to that type of stuff. Not so much with potholes, but other things. With the state, they have a much more lengthy process to connect with that. There are some shared services agreements sometimes where they will pay for materials for different things, and then we could potentially use those materials for town roads, and it kind of becomes a balance. So we're still working on that. We still haven't really got a great answer. It is frustrating to, we'll go out and fix anything that's on our roads, which we've done 2 or 3 times this winter because the potholes have been worse than normal, I believe, mostly because of the worst winter conditions, and not be able to go up there and do those certain sections when we're already kind of going along is difficult, but we are still working with them to establish an avenue that works for both parties without basically stepping too far outside our lines and spending tax dollars where they're not supposed to be spent. This is really what it comes down to. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I didn't want to come across, I by no means want to throw the NCDOT or NYSDOT under the bus. They've been great.
They're very good partners.
250 getting repaved last year. I mean, they're good partners. That one's frustrating because we know point of sale, we could get out there and fill those things immediately. But we're just, we're not at that point.
Yeah, it's very difficult. So state DOT specifically, right? So there has to be a priority with things. They have to address the things on the 55-mile-an-hour roads first.
Yeah.
And most of the ones that we have in Webster are 50 or 100. And when you're seeing stuff on the roads where the speed is higher, there's much greater danger. They have to address those first before they come onto some of the other roads where we see more of these conditions. They have no choice. Staffing is still an issue across the board. I know they have the same issues that we do. I've been working for almost 4 years now to get the staff number up to a certain number, and we haven't gotten it to the number I want to be at. You're very aware of that. We discuss budgets. I've been targeting the same number for a while, and I know they have the same or worse conditions. So that's the part of it. That's my only thing. They are a good partner in different things, but those are the challenges they're up against. It's not just we don't feel it coming out today. by any means.
Right.
So I kind of feel for them in that sense, but.
And I said I'd rattle these off, so hopefully that is the long one. The second comment on that page, and Pat said it, you know, on our website, it shows, if you want, citizens want to see, what are the state and county roads? You can go see it, but for the most part, it's your main arteries.
Yeah.
You know, you think of the grid system, you know, running north and south, Bay, 5 Mile Line Road, Holt, 250, Phillips, and then east to west, your Clems, your Ridge. Those main arteries are for the most part state or state or county roads, in majority county.
Correct.
Comment on the next page, the courtesy mailbox repair and replacement. This was something I learned a couple years ago that kind of surprised me. I think most citizens think that if they see their mailbox get knocked off, that driver, you know, didn't see it and clipped it with the blade. That is not the case. The power of that snow shooting against that mailbox. It's not the blade. It's the power, and that snow is heavy with salt and all that. Is that correct, Pat? That's what usually is what blasts the mailbox?
Yes, the vast majority of the mailboxes that are damaged are from the snow coming off the plow, not the actual steel plow. That's correct.
Yeah. Which I know when I've been out with people and they talk about that, it's dozens of times. They're incredulous to that. Really? I'm like, it's not the blade. Then I had a comment, on the existing highway building site upgrades. When you were in here a couple months ago, it somewhat showed the same thing, that, you know, when we get done with the main building, you had shown the board that, you know, maybe we should look at this salt barn for the reasons you gave, and the truck washout building, the EPA. And at that time, we mentioned how Barry Dean, the previous highway superintendent, and I think a pretty respected person in this community, he came over and walked through this with you and kind of looked at it, and I know that he called me and he said, you gotta do it. And that was a pretty good endorsement. So, and I don't know if the board members remember we said that Barry looked at it. I had a comment, well, I don't think I have to, oh yeah, the animal control facility, actually, Jenny, you hit the nail on the head. You know, I wanted to clarify that I know why it's not in your budget, we already talked about that, but, yeah, and I said, the comment was that the gas bays need an enclosed mechanicals. So we're gonna have to have some building, might as well use that building. The only question I had, I'm done with comments, I think, I'm done with comments. My question, and it doesn't have to be answered today, because it's probably a hybrid. Paul as our finance director and Kyle as our legal counsel, that we did this bond resolution 2 or 3 years ago for $28,250,000, and in the scope of it, certainly, I think Salt Barn was in there. I know that the truck washout wasn't. How does that affect any bond revisions? We know we're never going to hit 28 million, but the fact that the scope of what we had might not have met it, is it because it's this capital project that it's much ado about nothing as far as a resolution and a revision of a bond resolution?
Are you saying, are you worried that some of these items might not be covered within the original bond resolution and the description?
You're a lot more succinct than me. That's, I guess, I just, you know, the devil's in the details, and that's why I said it doesn't have to be answered tonight, but as we move forward on this, you know, I just want to make sure. Pardon?
We have to make sure the wording is.
Right.
Actually,
Actually, there was one other, yeah.
It should be very close.
I did have one other comment. You know, as on the next steps, which is the page with the break room, you know, Pat shows that, you know, a schedule that would start the next board meeting. And I've said this before, that as the town board moves forward with these things, and you stare at a number of $3 million, when we start that process of design and all that, we have not committed to $3 million. And if the bids come back and all of a sudden to build this salt barn is $5 million, well, the town board would say, we're not moving forward with that. We actually just went through this similar with, I hate to say it, the Sandbar Park restaurant building. It came in higher, that's the beauty of the bid process. We can talk all day long about estimates and things like that. At the end of the day, rubber hits the road when those bids come in, you open them in the low bid. You know, we've been very fortunate up to this point that our estimates were $28 million for the scope of things. We knew the day we opened those bids that it looks like we were gonna probably come in about $5 million, you know, better. Because the bids came in less than what the estimated cost of the 4 contracts were, general contracting or whatever. I think Pat in campus construction and the engineers and design and all that, it is a team effort that they knocked off another $1.8 million from that through the management of the project. Jen, I know that you went to a couple of those owner meetings, and you know, to see Pat at the table with campus construction and the engineers and whatever, that was a real think tank meeting where you guys were, you know, really hammering down on details, and the net effect of that is you came in $6.8 million under budget. Pretty amazing. So I'll get off myself.
I don't really have any questions. First of all, Pat, I want to thank you for your time today. I toured the new facility. It's incredible. It's just amazing. And I want to thank you for your conservative approach to this project by pulling the salt barn out of the original project, even though we looked at the scope, including it. You wanted to be more conservative. Let's see where we land with the overall building as it goes up. And I certainly recognize the fact that we do need a new salt barn. I will not be here on the March 6th, for the March 6th meeting. I just want to say that I won't have an opportunity to vote on that, but I am in complete support of moving forward with this.
Well, I think, Kyle, the law says we can't start the regular board meeting early, but we can start at late. So it's 7:38 right now. I think we're done with the workshop, and I think, Anne Marie, we have to stop the tape, take a 2-minute break, and we'll be back with the regular scheduled board meeting. So, good night, everybody.